let me back up. I backed up a minute. Yeah, okay. So anyways, so why would you use QuickBooks? So first of all, it's to maintain accurate financial records. That's important for taxes, when you're filing taxes, for your tax returns. It's also important for your lenders, if you have any loans outstanding, or if you're applying for a loan. This information is good to have available quickly and accurately. It's also useful for compliance issues. Again, the IRS requires that you keep good records. And again, the lenders, if you have a loan out with like the SBA, oftentimes they're going to require you, maintain certain information, and also they may be looking for regular financial statements from you. QuickBooks is really good about helping you create and produce financial statements. It's also good, again, financial reporting for management purposes. Also backing up a little bit again about the financial reports and having accurate information. Not only the SBA, but other government agencies. And a good case in point is we just went through COVID restrictions, and also there were numerous federal and state programs that were handing out money to businesses that were to help them, weather the rough waters. And there was a lot of money handed out in forms of grants, loans, and in order to apply for these funds that were available, you had to provide financial information. And again, if you were using QuickBooks or some other software, and if you were on top of your books, or if you had your account, your financial information in order, you could quickly and easily apply for these loans. Unfortunately, a lot of small businesses don't pay that close attention to their accounting, and it's a chore for a lot of people because it can be tedious. So what happened is that those businesses that had their financials in order were able to apply and receive these funds rather quickly, and others, some people would just put all their receipts in a box and, okay, now we got to figure this out. So a lot of time went involved, trying to figure out the information that the government would need. So they would go to their accountant or tax preparer to do it for them. And of course, they were all overwhelmed, so it took a while. And most accountants and tax preparers during the early days of COVID were quite busy. But if you were using QuickBooks and were using it properly, that process would have gone a lot quicker, and it wouldn't have involved as much time with a CPA or your accountant. So QuickBooks, it's really the granddaddy. There are two versions of QuickBooks. There's the online version and there's a desktop version. The desktop version is the granddaddy. It's basically been around again since the early 90s. I've been using it since the very early days. Most of my experience has been with the QuickBooks Online. I noticed in some of the responses on the questionnaires that went out, we have a number of people that are still using the QuickBooks desktop version. So there are differences. So essentially, some of the differences is that QuickBooks Access would be one of them. So with QuickBooks, it's installed, the desktop version is installed on your computer, and it can only be accessed on that computer. QuickBooks Online, on the other hand, it's web-based and can be accessed from any device with an internet connection. Some other differences, QuickBooks Desktop offers more features than the online, particularly when it comes to inventory management, job costing, industry-specific features. However, QuickBooks Online has been rapidly expanding its feature set, and so may now offer pretty much all the features that some small businesses need, but they still have some catching up to do with the more complex and sophisticated accounting that's required. But they're getting there. And also, if you've been watching or seeing all the ads at QuickBooks, they're focusing primarily on getting people to use the online version. And their attention is being taken away from the desktop. So even with my training, I have to be certified every year. 95% of my training now is with on my yearly certifications with QuickBooks Online. And I've been certified, being certified with them since I think it was 2006 or 2007. And for the first several years, it was just mostly just the changes that had occurred in the updates on the QuickBooks desktop version. The other features that might be somewhat different, the cost. Initially, the QuickBooks Online was in the long run was actually more expensive. The QuickBooks Desktop, it used to have a one-time purchase cost. Now it's actually subscription based, and it's now becoming more on par with QuickBooks Online when it comes to cost. I mean, it used to be with QuickBooks Desktop, you would purchase the software, go to Staples or whatever, buy it on a CD, install it on your computer. You buy the software. I've seen it at times as low as $200, and you would install it on your PC, and it would work great. And it had a lot of features on it. For instance, would interface with your bank and import data directly from your bank account and post that right into the registers of QuickBooks, which saves a lot of time when you're doing bookkeeping. And then there are also other features that that were there that would be functional. And QuickBooks would support the product, but after about 3 years, usually 3 years, they would make that product more or less obsolete with a newer version, and you'd have to go out and buy the software again. So essentially every 3 years, you'd have to purchase an upgraded version of the software and have to shell out about $300 or more. That was for the most basic version. QuickBooks Online, on the other hand, with the subscription based, you don't have to worry about updates. It does it automatically. All the information on QuickBooks Online is stored on the cloud. And so you don't have to worry about backup issues, and it stays current, and it just works out automatically. The monthly subscriptions, though, however, for a while there, when you factor that out for the whole year, it was actually less expensive to own a desktop. But now QuickBooks Desktop is becoming subscription based, and you'll no longer be able to buy the software outright. The monthly subscription fees are pretty much at par right now with QuickBooks Online. So the big issue here that you want to be considered if the cost is an issue, it's really what are your real needs, because the cost is going to be relatively the same across either platform, whether it's the online or the desktop version. So QuickBooks Online versus desktop. The desktop has primarily 4 versions: QuickBooks Pro, Premier, Premier Plus, and Enterprise. Pro and Premier, those are the ones that are being phased out. You can no longer buy them. The QuickBooks Premier Plus and QuickBooks Enterprise are now strictly subscription based. Premier Plus is just a slightly better version of the QuickBooks Pro, and QuickBooks Enterprise has more advanced features, has larger capacity. Both versions now have inventory features and more advanced features. The QuickBooks Premier has industry-specific modes that are more customized for the type of industry you're in. So if you're in the construction, or if you're in legal industry or retail or whatever, they have specific versions for those. And again, Enterprise also does too. But anyways, but initially the online version was going to be the primary focus of the seminar, which it is, but I will interject with the desktop information, because they're pretty similar across the board. But if you're
Excuse
looking
me,
for
Glenn.
yes,
We have one question from Michael.
okay.
He had asked, have you seen any security issues with multiple points of access through the online version?
Not yet, and I haven't heard any as yet. They do have two-factor authentication when you log in, but I haven't heard of any yet, and I haven't seen any myself. No.
Awesome, thank you, Michael. Did that answer your question? Also, while we're waiting for him to respond, if there's any other questions at this point, feel free to unmute and ask, and then we can jump right back into something else.
Okay, so if you're looking at the subscription levels and pricing, that's the website we want to go to, and all that information is right there. Okay, so I throw this in because this is kind of important, especially for new businesses. Now, the odds against small businesses failing, these numbers here, I don't trust that they're all that accurate, but I don't think they're too far from the mark, mostly from my experience. I've seen it over the years, a lot of new businesses, a good number of them fail within the first year, and a lot of them fail within 5 years. And these numbers I don't think are too far off the mark. They came from Brad Smith, who is the CEO of Intuit, and he shared these statistics with us in in the training I go through. But it's extremely important that you work with an accounting professional, a pro advisor, or have a pro advisor like myself, a trusted advisor, or use a experienced bookkeeper, one that's experienced with using QuickBooks. And that way there you'll have up-to-date, accurate information to be able to keep tabs on the health of your business. Because, if you run your business by your checkbook, it can be deceiving. You could be losing money when you think you're making money, or vice versa. And if you have accurate records, you can see why. You can see why the numbers might not be correct if you're not doing it properly. But, if you hire a bookkeeper, it's going to save time. Again, I mentioned earlier, when you look at the advertising QuickBooks has, it kind of make it look like it's magic. It'll do everything for you. But if you don't have a grasp of basic, or the fundamental accounting principles, you could be putting in bad information and making costly mistakes. And this is even more the case when you're using the more advanced features of QuickBooks. So you've probably heard the expression garbage in, garbage out. Well, if the QuickBooks isn't configured correctly, it may be putting out bad information, so garbage is going to come out. If you don't know how to use QuickBooks properly, you can be putting garbage in. And if you put in wrong information is going to come out. But anyways, in this webinar, I'm only going to be covering the basic features. So the ones where you don't really need a whole lot of accounting knowledge, and some of them you really don't need any. But just to give you an overview, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But anyways, if we're going to go into beyond the basic features of QuickBooks to cover the more advanced ones, that would require much more time than this 45-minute webinar. So anyways, how much accounting do you need to know? Well, there are many, I'm sure there are many of you are diehards, do-it-yourself diehards like I am. But here's what you need to be familiar with if you want accurate information coming out of QuickBooks. So if it's all Greek to you, then use only the most basic features. Leave the more complicated stuff to a professional. So how much do you need to know? Well, you need to know about the chart of accounts, because that is the core of the whole architecture of QuickBooks, how it works. It's a complete list of all your business accounts and their balances. We're going to go a little bit more into this later, talk about how the chart of accounts works with the everyday activities of QuickBooks. But anyways, the chart of accounts, it keeps track of where your income comes from, where you put your money, what expenses are for, and what you use to pay them. Whether you're borrowing money to pay for them. Someone has a question? No. Oh, I'm sorry. It's my dog in the background. He's having one of those. He's sleeping and he's having a spasm. But anyways, so back to where we were. So you want to know where the money is coming from. It either come out of your bank account, or you may have borrowed some money to pay for something. But anyways, it tracks the flow of money through the chart of accounts. Okay, so the next thing you need to know is about assets, liabilities, and equity. So assets include what you have and what people owe you. That can be, bank accounts, equipment that you own, vehicles, real estate, property. Those are all assets. Those are worth, some money, and they have value. Then you have your liabilities. So you have those are loans that you have due, a balance due on any loans. That's money you owe. Any payables you have, any bills that you have that haven't been paid, that's money you owe. That's a liability. Balances on your credit cards accounts, those are all liabilities. And any taxes that you may owe, that's also a liability. And then, of course, you have the net worth, which is the combination of the two. It's basically the difference between what you have and what you owe. The basic accounting formula: equity equals assets minus liabilities. That's essentially your net worth. So it's all your assets minus what you owe, and whatever that difference is what you're worth. You want to make sure that's in the plus category, because if your assets are lower than your liabilities, you have to really be careful, because you owe more than what you have, and you have to take some action. So there's also a concept known as cash versus accrual accounting. It's not really critical for most of the functions here, but it helps you understand some of the features of QuickBooks. When you basically the cash basis accounting, if you don't quite understand, it's basically your income is money that's it's recorded and counted when the money is received, and the expenses are counted and accounted for when they are paid. That's the cash basis. But the accrual basis, it's a little different, because your income is counted at the time of the sale, not when you receive the money. And the expenses are counted when you receive that bill, not when you pay the bill. So for example, if you receive the bill in January, but they were for expenses that occurred in December, for instance, like an electric bill. So you get the electric bill at the end of the month, actually, let's say in December. And but you don't pay it till January. Well, if you are on accrual-based accounting, you can count that expense as a tax deduction in December if you're on an accrual basis, even though you paid it the following month. Now, if you're on a cash basis, you would count that as an expense during the year you paid it. So, and there are some reasons why you do it one way or the other. Typically, if you're a business that has accounts receivables, in other words, you're billing for services but not receiving the money until later, you typically would be filing on an accrual basis. Now in QuickBooks, if you need to retrieve that information in financial reports, you can easily switch your reports to report your financial statements either on an accrual or cash basis. You can switch back and forth from one to the other. Anyways, any questions so far?
Any questions, anyone? You can unmute yourself if you want. That's easier. Looks like we're good, Glenn.
Okay. So, so the other thing is you have to understand how to read your financial statements. And accuracy is important. And again, this has to do with the garbage in, garbage out process. If you don't have the right information, then you're going to create these statements and the information on it will not be correct. But the balance sheet, so basically it's a snapshot of your company as of one date. So you would, if you created a balance sheet, you would give it a date, and that would show you what you have, your assets as of that particular date. What people owe you, those would be accounts receivables. That would also be an asset as of a particular date. What your business owns, and what your business owes, those will be your liabilities, and your net worth. So that all is shown on your balance sheet. If you recall, when I was explaining to you with the difference, the accounting terms, the accounting you need to know, I talked about the assets, liabilities, and equity. So that's what happens on your balance sheet. That's where you're going to get that information. Then you have a profit and loss, an income statement. Now, profit and loss statement or income statement, it shows your income and expenses and your net profit and loss. So it shows you your income, the money you actually made, minus what your expenses were, and then what's left over is your profit or loss. And then your statement of cash flows tracks the incoming and outgoing cash or cash equivalents. Cash equivalents would be, basically your assets. So now your profit and loss statement, one of my colleagues came up with the term, said your profit and loss statement is your checkbook is not your profit and loss statement. And what happens is, for instance, your profit and loss statement is going to show income and expenses, but it won't show the change of your loan balance because your loan payments are not expenses. When you make a loan payment, that decreases the balance of your loan, which decreases your liability. So it shows up as a change on your balance sheet, not on your profit and loss statement. So what could be happening is that, during the course of the year, you could feel like you're losing money because your checkbook, the balance seems awfully low, but you look at your profit and loss statement, it's showing you're making, more money than you realize. What the problem is that your expense, because your mortgage or loan payment is not really an expense, it's not showing up there, so it's not being deducted from your revenue. And so you're seeing a different number for what your true profit is. And so the reason for that change, why there's a change in cash that's different from your actual net profit, that can be found on your statement of cash flow. It tells you where your incoming and outgoing cash or cash equivalent, what's happening to them. All right, so moving right along. So now we're going to go to, I'm going to play you a tutorial. I'm going to stop this share here. And we're going to go to my other PC. And we're going to play the tutorial from QuickBooks. And it's understanding the chart of accounts.
This is Alana from the QuickBooks team. The chart of accounts is the hub of your accounting. It's the central place where you decide how you organize your transactions. Every account or category you use in QuickBooks for every transaction comes from the chart of accounts. Let's go over the chart of accounts, how it helps you organize your business, and how it affects your financial statements. To get to the chart of accounts, select Bookkeeping, Chart of Accounts. Every transaction you record in QuickBooks affects at least two of these accounts. Usually, it's the bank or credit card account you spent or received money to, and then an account that describes why. Let's look at an example. Open the Transactions screen. You see a purchase of some staplers for the office. The transaction is already assigned to the correct bank account. You just need to enter the correct category for why you spent the money. Office supplies, an expense account. Back on the chart of accounts, the balance for the bank account decreases by what you spent on the staplers. But down in the office supplies expense account, you don't see a balance, like you do with the accounts at the top. Let's look closer at the type of accounts to see why. Each account uses a specific type. The type tells QuickBooks what the account should track, either the balance of the account or a total of the transactions for specific time periods. Accounts at the top of the list show you how much you own or owe right now. They include accounts you're already familiar with, like bank accounts or credit cards. They have balances that tell you how much money you have in those accounts or how much you owe. Other accounts, like fixed assets, tell you the value of things you own, like a truck or a warehouse, and liabilities tell you how much you owe, like on a mortgage. Equity accounts show you how much the business is worth to the owner. You use equity accounts when the owner deposits money into the business or when they withdraw money for their personal expenses. Income accounts help you track why you receive money from customers or donors. Cost of goods sold and expense accounts help you track your spending. These accounts don't have balances because they help you track the profit of your business for a specific time period. You don't usually want to see how much you spent on office supplies since you opened your business. So instead, you run a report to see how much you spent for a month or year. QuickBooks comes with many accounts already set up for you. However, you'll probably want to add some more. When you do, you can add them here. This other video here will show you how. Your accounts don't have account numbers by
Okay, so if you're using the QuickBooks desktop version, let's see, if you're using a QuickBooks desktop version, it's pretty much the same. It's the same. It may not look exactly the same, but it's set up the same way. Now, the next video is going to show you a little bit more about accounting terms and how to, a little more deeper into how the chart of accounts works.
For the most part, you can name accounts whatever you like on your chart of accounts, but there are some accounting terms that are important to know in order to get the most out of QuickBooks. Let's take a look at the chart of accounts by clicking Accounting on the nav bar to the left. One common accounting term that you'll find on many chart of accounts is accounts receivable. Accounts receivable is a record of what your customers owe you right now. This company has an accounts receivable balance of $3,025. That means that right now, customers owe this company $3,025. You can see a breakdown of this balance by customer by clicking on Sales and then Customers. Scrolling down, here QuickBooks shows an open balance for each customer, and this is the individual accounts receivable balance for each one of the customers who owe us money. There's also an account called Accounts Payable on the chart of accounts, which measures what you owe to your vendors. Currently, this business owes $1,482.15 to its vendors. You can see a list of who your business owes money to by selecting Expenses and then Vendors. And here QuickBooks displays a list of your vendors along with your accounts payable balances with those vendors. You'll often also see reference to two accounting terms, debits and credits. Every transaction in QuickBooks has two sides, a debit and a credit. Let's take a look at the debits and credits for a transaction. First, I'll click the magnifying glass and then open a recent transaction. Towards the bottom of the screen, click More and then Transaction Journal. The Transaction Journal displays the debits and credits for the selected transaction, as well as the account on the chart of accounts that the debit side or credit side is affecting. Outside of QuickBooks, we use debit and credit interchangeably for debit cards, credit cards, and a whole host of other issues. But in QuickBooks and in accounting in general, debit means the left side of a transaction, and credit means the right side of a transaction. You don't have to know what account to debit or credit in a given situation. As seen here, QuickBooks knows exactly what to debit and credit in each transaction. Chart of accounts can vary greatly by company to company, but some accounting terms are uniform across all companies.
Okay, I have another.
This is Alana from the QuickBooks team.
Hold on a minute.
For the most part, you can name accounts whatever you like on your chart of accounts, but there are some accounting terms that are important to know in order to get the most out of QuickBooks. Let's take a look at the chart of accounts by clicking Accounting on the nav bar to the left. One common accounting term that you'll find on many chart of accounts is accounts receivable. Accounts receivable is a record of what your customers owe you right now.
Okay, stop that. All right. Forgive me. All right, so I'm going to show you what it looks like on a. If there's any questions, I'm going to show the desktop version and what it looks like there.
There's some questions before we start.
Okay.
Candace said they're involved in agriculture, which has different types of accounting transactions needed. The balances are growing. Some things are worth nothing. Others are worth something a year or two after purchase. Are there any recommendations for agricultural type of software?
Yeah, I don't know about software specifically for agriculture, but those type of things involve, you need to have somebody, preferably a CPA, that has that background to, because that would require journal entries on a monthly basis or on a periodic basis to make adjustments to your, your accounts, to take account of the changes in the values. It does require some accounting finesse, you might say, to be able to do that, because it does involve journal entries, and that's something where the average user, unless you have a firm understanding of basic accounting principles, I wouldn't attempt to do that and try to get those numbers straight from QuickBooks. It would again require a journal entry.
Thank you, Glenn. And then we have another question. Which version of the online version has the chart of accounts feature?
They all do.
Thank you.
And
Any
as
other
well as the
questions?
desktop. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. So I'm going to show you basically how to get around on that. What we looked at there was more or less how to get around on the online version. So I'm going to show you how to get around on desktop, which is similar. Yeah.
This is Jason from the QuickBooks team. When you start using QuickBooks, it's important to understand how to get around the program. Let's go over 3 important parts of QuickBooks that help you get to what you need: the home page, the icon bar, and then the menu bar. First, let's look at the home page. The tasks and workflows on the home page show you how to use QuickBooks to run your business. The home page displays icons for your most common tasks and organizes them into related groups. The arrows represent workflows and show how tasks relate to each other. It's important to perform tasks in the proper order. For instance, you should enter an invoice for a customer before you receive their payment. Whenever you select an icon from the home page, QuickBooks opens a new window so you can record info related to that task. Another way to access the features of QuickBooks is the icon bar. First, you'll see your shortcuts, a list of tasks and windows you use most. Customize shortcuts to add your own. Let's say a customer calls to ask about their balance. Select Customers, and you can see the name of the customer and their balance. Then your colleague asks for a profit and loss statement, so you select Reports and run the profit and loss standard. The icon bar lets you quickly perform these tasks. When you select the icons, the windows open on top of each other, and it's hard to switch between them. Not only can you use the icon bar to start activities, you can use it to switch between tasks. Select Open Windows, and then select any window you want to get back to. The icon bar also gives you convenient access to important balances for your company, such as bank and credit card balances. You can also run your favorite reports directly from the icon bar. There's one more important part of the screen: the menu bar. Just like most programs on your computer, there's a menu bar across the top of the screen. QuickBooks groups the menus by function. This is similar to the home page, but you'll notice the menus from the menu bar usually have more tasks than the home page does. That's because the home page is a collection of the most common activities, while the menu lists a few options you use less often. Now you're ready to get around QuickBooks like a pro.
Okay, I want to show you, it's similar in many ways in the online version. It has pretty much the same features, it's just arranged differently. I'm going to show you one thing that wasn't covered on the video on QuickBooks Online. I'm showing you the online screen now, and it's this new button here. So if you look on the left window on the left sidebar, this is where you can enter your invoices, your payments, your sales receipts. This is where you have access, sort of like with the desktop version they showed you. And you also have, the home page that has different chores and tasks here. Now, if you're using the online version, and if your menu bar doesn't look this way, that's because this is in the accounting view. If you go to your gear icon, you can switch it to, it was in the business view, you can switch it to accounting view. And what happens, it will change, just a slightly different change. This is more, when you have it in the accounting view, this is more like what you saw on the QuickBooks desktop version. Depending on your level of expertise, you just have to decide which one of these would be best suited for your particular needs. But all that information is there from these different menus. So anyways, for instance, if you wanted to enter a new invoice, you just click on invoice, and this appears similar to the QuickBooks Online, the QuickBooks Desktop. And let's click this customer, and it automatically populates with the current date. And then here you would enter in the product you're selling. So let's say it's buying concrete, and it was for $1,000 per unit, $1,100 per unit. And now it's pretty much, you can either print it, you either save it, you can send it, or email it. So that's just one of the features of the QuickBooks Online, how it's sort of similar with the QuickBooks Desktop version. So moving on, we're going to get into reports, on financial reports, and we're going to talk a little bit about the essential financial reports in QuickBooks. So let me see. So first one we're going to talk a little more is about the P&L. Where is it? I'm going to put something here. Oh, hold on a minute. Oh, let's see, back up one.
The profit and loss statement
There we
shows
go.
you your business's income and expenses over a period of time. You can access your profit and loss statement by selecting Reports from the nav bar on the left, and then clicking Profit and Loss underneath Favorites. The profit and loss statement shows you how much money your business made and spent over the displayed period of time. At the top of the profit and loss statement, you see your business's income displayed right here, divided up into different income accounts, so you can see your general revenue streams. Right here you also see your cost of goods sold. These are costs specifically for the production of goods that you sold or services that you charged your customers for. And then towards the bottom of the profit and loss are your expenses. These are expenses for the general maintenance of your business, such as advertising, insurance, rent, and utilities. The profit and loss statement allows you to see your total income minus your cost of goods sold, and then also minus your expenses to display your net income. This is your profit over the selected period of time. Let's take a look at the balance sheet by going to Reports and then Balance Sheet. Now, let's scroll down to the bottom of the balance sheet to the Equity section. Here we can see the exact same number that was displayed on the profit and loss statement before. So the end result of the profit and loss statement is also displayed on the balance sheet. And the net income, or profit of a business, is used to calculate the growth in what the business is worth to the owner because it's in the equity section of the balance sheet. Use the profit and loss statement to measure the basic profitability of your business.
Okay, I'm going to run another one that's going to show you how to customize these reports. Again, these same features are available in the desktop version. It just the interface looks a little different, and I'll probably demonstrate a few on the desktop version.
This is Jason from the QuickBooks team. Running reports is one of the most powerful things you can do in QuickBooks to see how your business is performing. Let's go over the Report Center in QuickBooks Online and how to run reports from it. Then you'll learn how to customize your reports so you see what you need to make the best decisions possible. Select Business Overview, Reports. Note that your navigation may look like this. QuickBooks divides your reports into categories to help you find what you need. The first section is your favorite reports. These are reports you run more often than others and always want to see at the top of the list. Scroll down further to see reports that give you an overview of your business. insights into who owes you money, sales and customers, and more. If you find a report you'll use often, select the star to add it to your favorites, so it appears at the top of the report center. You can also search for the report you want. Enter the name of a report, or just any word in the name, like profit, and QuickBooks lists any report that matches what you entered. Let's run the profit and loss statement. The profit and loss statement displays all of the income, cost of goods sold, and expense accounts you used within the report's date range. This profit and loss statement is for this year to date. The totals for each account are a summary of all the transactions you assigned to the account in that date range. Since this is such a broad date range, let's break up the date by column. Select the Display Columns By drop-down menu, Month. Then Run Report. Now you see the income and expenses for each month so far this year across the columns. This kind of report is helpful for seeing trends, but it doesn't show a dollar or percentage change from month to month. Let's add columns for comparison. First, change the report back to show total only. Run the report to show totals for last month's transactions. Then select the Compare Another Period drop-down menu. Let's compare last month to the previous month, and select dollar change and percentage change. Run the report again. Now the report shows last month because it's the report's date range, and compares it to the previous month. This also works to compare weeks, quarters, or years. This example uses a profit and loss statement, but you can do this with many other reports. If you want to see fewer details for a specific section of the statement, select the arrows to the left of the account names to collapse the subaccounts. Now you see one line with a total for that section. Select the arrow again to view the details once more. You can also collapse all of the subaccounts and expand them back. You can also
Yeah, I'm gonna stop that right there because we're getting low on time and there's a couple of other things I want to talk about. Let me see. The customization feature does work pretty much the same on a desktop version. It's pretty robust. You're not going to hurt anything if you play around and explore it. That's how you're going to learn how to use it and learn how to use it best to your needs. My name is, I want to talk a little bit about common problems that people have with QuickBooks that I see when I have a consult with a client. One of the ones is that their income numbers, they just doesn't look right. Hold on, let me stop the screen share here. And I'm going to stop screen share on my other one. Okay, so first of all, they'll do an income statement or a profit and loss statement, and they'll say the numbers just don't look right. My income is obviously not that high, or it's just not correct. Or they'll look at their credit card or bank balances on the balance sheet, and they look out of whack. It just can't be. One of the reasons why that, I mean, there are many reasons, but the more typical one, again, is that the user is not familiar with some accounting basis. The other thing is QuickBooks might not be set up or configured properly. Again, that's where you want to, if you're not sure how to do it, consult with your CPA or with a QuickBooks Pro advisor, or even one of us here at the Small Business Development Center. I'm the QuickBooks expert, so they'll put you in touch with me if you need help with that. Also, one of the things is bank reconciliations. I didn't talk about that earlier, but you're going to hear this when you talk to an accountant and other people with finance. It's very important that you reconcile your checking and banking accounts. That's the only way you can be comfortable that the information that's showing up in your register is correct. If it's not reconciled, that means the numbers are going to be off somewhere. Also, there is a feature in QuickBooks which I didn't cover here, and it's available on both desktop and online version, and it's involved into importing your transaction information directly from your bank or credit card. The nice thing about that is that it does take all the transactions, puts them in your register, and it even categorizes them for you. But how does it know where to categorize it? These transactions is up to you. And when you're using that feature, you have to kind of walk through and look at every transaction that the bank is coming in before you accept it to make sure it is categorized properly. What happens there when you're using the bank feeds is that if you make a mistake on the first one, QuickBooks is going to think that's what you're going to use all the time. So when it comes in at another time, when later on when you're bringing in some more bank information, QuickBooks is going to think that that transaction that you applied to a certain category which was incorrect is a correct one, and it'll automatically appear. If you don't check it carefully, you end up accepting it, and that's where a lot of incorrect information will come from. So you have to be very careful when doing the bank feeds. And again, consider a bookkeeper and team up with a CPA or a pro advisor. So the bank feeds, when I say, I always call it going haywire. It's because the people who are, the users aren't really paying close attention to the bank feeds and just accepting it because there's so many of them. It just seems so tedious, but you really do have to pay attention to it. So again, the best practices with this is to, as I say, reconcile. Your accountant's going to thank you for it. There's a feature in reports called recurring transactions on the desktop. It's called memorized transactions. If you explore around when you get a report up, a financial statement, there's a button somewhere that after you've customized a certain report, you can actually save it, so you don't have to enter in all those little parameters later. They'll be up there exactly as you left it the last time. QuickBooks also has great search features. You look on the online version, there's a little magnifying glass. If you click on that, you can type in anything like a dollar amount, and it will find a transaction with a certain dollar amount. On the QuickBooks desktop version, pull down menu, you can use the search feature. It works pretty much the same way. There's also a keyboard shortcut called Control F. That window will pop up, which will allow you to do searches there. And also there are a lot of keyboard shortcuts which are available on the, if you go on the QuickBooks support website, which I'll provide you with the information to it at the end of this webinar. It'll give you information on that. There's all kinds of features and little tricks and tips that you can use on QuickBooks. I mean, one of the fun ones is if you're entering a lot of information, a lot of transactions, and you're entering different dates and everything, there are date shortcuts. For instance, if you're in the date field, instead of, like today is February 28th, you would put 02/28/2023. Well, really all you have to do is put MH. So M being the first day of the month, H being the last day of the month. So if you put the letter H, it's going to be the last day of the month. If you put the letter M, it'll be the first day of the month. If you wanted to put in the first day of the week, you just put in the letter W, and the date that'll pop up will be the first day of the week. You put in the letter K, that'll be the last day of the week. Same goes with the year. If you want the first day of the year to show up, the letter Y, the last day, the letter L. I mean, it's straightforward. MH for being the first and last letter of month, WK being the first and last letter of week, YR being the first and last letter of year. That's just an example of some of the shortcuts that are available. So anyways, and there's a test drive company, which is what I used to show you here, quickbooks.intuit.com/ as you see here, REDIR/test drive. That will take you to a website that has a sample online company. You can use that to play around. You can try different things. You can play around with reports. You can't screw anything up. It's only a sample company. You can use it all you want. The only thing is that once you log off, the information it reverts back to its original. So it's really only meant for practice only. You can't keep your own records on it if you try to, because you're going to lose them all as soon as you logged off. It has example transactions in there, so you can practice a lot of features using that. Now, QuickBooks desktop version also has a sample company. When you go to log on to your QuickBooks desktop, there is a button on there that says Open Sample Company. It has several different types of sample companies you can open up, whether you're in agriculture or accounting or legal or medical or retail, whatever. You can open up sample companies that are specifically for that. Also, good idea is to invite your accountant or pro advisor to access your QuickBooks Online files. And there's a way of doing it. I'll just ask if you contact a pro advisor or even me, I can walk you through the steps. And also, here are the useful links. You might want to copy these down, but they'll be available. Elena will make sure you all have them later. So that's how you get your test drive. And also the QuickBooks support website is really useful and very valuable. It has a lot of stuff there, a lot of videos. And then there's also a YouTube channel that's specifically for QuickBooks. And it has tons of videos on there that, and they're all pretty short and specific, right to the point. So if you're having trouble, why aren't your checks posted, how to post a check, how to enter a check, how to create an invoice, things, everything, it's all there. And that's pretty much the end of my presentation. I'll open it up for some questions. Do we have any questions?